Hello, welcome to the 19th day of October 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live morning exercise that I do every day at around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I review my creed and I prepare for the coming day. But first, hello, new subscribers. It's good to have you on the channel. I'm glad you're here. This video is a live journal exercise, so as such, I'm at liberty to talk about anything I like for as long as I like, and in as much depth or as little depth as I feel like it. And you are welcome to listen in, leave comments or criticisms via your comments, and I will take those up when I'm finished. Now, I'm serious about the criticism part because sometimes I learn from the challenging observations of others who might help me to see something through a critical eye that I may miss. So bring it on. I'm usually pretty good at segregating out, but I'm not always perfect at it, segregating out the mean stuff from the helpful stuff. But the mean stuff gets to me sometimes too. It's a risk I'm willing to take. Therefore, let's get. Oh, did I say my thank you? Oh yeah, thank you for my viewers of my videos and my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters. I do deeply appreciate all of you. Okay, let's get started. Yesterday, if you saw the video from yesterday, I related some tale of the challenge that I had driving to Yamanashi Prefecture yesterday, particularly with regard to navigating, more importantly, dealing with the upset that came of realizing that I was making mistakes while I was driving, which would cause us to, and it wasn't just me, because we were navigating as a team, and so my wife and my sister-in-law and I were trying to make these decisions together and failing. We failed 2 times yesterday, and then one time a few weeks back. When you make a failure on the large paid toll roads here in Japan, and you wind up going on the wrong toll road in the wrong direction, it's a costly and time-consuming mistake to get to the next toll exit, pay the toll for the road that you incorrectly drove on, get back on to get the way you wanted to go, and have to end up paying more for the added distance in the long run once you get there, and biting your nails, trying to make sure you don't make the same mistake when you get back to the next interchange. It's and I talked at length yesterday, in yesterday's Good Life meditation about how I was using the values in my book to help me out. Namely, I was using temperance, the principle called life will not go well, and the principle of maturity, which was yielded at the end. So yesterday was a second chance to try again. We went back to the same antique fair, and we knew we would face down the same challenging interchanges again. I am happy to report that I really prepared myself ahead of time. Psychologically, doesn't mean that I didn't get nervous as we approached each of the intersections, the interchanges. I did, but I used temperance. Well, first of all, I used #reason ahead of time to both plan out my plan of action of how I would handle each interchange, which was namely this: as we approached each interchange, I announced to everyone in the car, we're 2 kilometers away from the interchange. We so that everybody's eyes could be up and helping me to decide. Then we focused on the navigation device, which was telling us properly which way to go. If we had only listened to it yesterday or the day before yesterday. And then as we approached, I began speaking out loud and using gestures to say, looks like I'm going to go migi no ho, yield to the right, and I would gesture with my hand to the right, and I would slow down to make sure that we got everybody's agreement before we proceeded. It went so well that it kind of became a joke amongst us that we were pretending, though, once we were certain we were going to make the right turn, the correct lane change, we then began to joke, saying, no, this way, that way. And I even was with my hand on the wheel at the last minute, pretending to turn the wheel the other way to go the wrong way. And we all got a good laugh out of it. So it was successful. We didn't make any mistakes yesterday. There was one moment that I did pull off at an off ramp. I mean, what I thought was a a roadside rest area to uh, I wanted to do something with the radio, you know, and it was complicated enough that I didn't want to do it while I was driving. I'm not a good driver anymore, and I don't want to be driving and fiddling with the radio. So I was going to pull off at this uh, off ramp, and I did that, and I successfully did it. But it got a little concerning at times. I thought I was going to make some mistakes until I realized I wasn't even on the expressway anymore. This was a normal road. I could make all the mistakes I wanted and easily recover. Nevertheless, the anxiety appeared. So yesterday's experience was not without anxiety. I did feel the anxiety at every interchange and with every decision that we made. But that anxiety was met with a high degree of adulting between my wife and my sister-in-law and I, um, dealing with the decisions carefully as a group of newly minted seniors can do in the most comical way, and and dealing with them very maturely. Brushing off, almost brushing away the anxiety with a bit of humor and levity as we went. So I used reason, hashtag reason, for, again, quoting or citing values in my book, hashtag reason to plan the way forward, hashtag temperance to control my emotions in the moment, um, hashtag one thing slowly to be measuring the measuring and getting the attention of my family as we approach the interchange 2 kilometers out, planning our attack and executing it accordingly. That would be the good use of time. Hashtag time. And uh, also, life will not go well, recognizing that life cannot go well, and addressing it. Also, hashtag limits, recognizing not, in this case, not our limits so much as, although they are implied, the opportunity that we had to make good use of our faculties and our better sense and our maturity and our reason to plan our way through the intersections. All that to say, that's how hard it is at age 61 to navigate and drive well, which is the subject of this morning's journal entry, which I just posted on Facebook and is uploading now to YouTube relative to the Retiring in Japan episode for today. Okay, I'm going to share with you something that I probably won't go into too much detail elsewhere, but for those of you that attend uh, this particular video exercise, you're kind of closer than most. So I'm going to share with you some more details about this Retiring in Japan challenge. And so in future, when I talk about things that I'm dealing with, you'll have a better reference. So you know about the situation if you've seen these videos, that I have a family situation back in the States that might require me returning to America at a short notice. I mean, I could be there within 72 hours if I'm given the go. Things are all ready to go. I stand prepared. That's not the thing I'm going to tell you about because it's not my thing to talk about. What I do want to talk with you about is something else that's caused me a great deal of anxiety in the last week as it came about, and I'll share with you the details. Uh, and here it is. So it's more of a financial issue. I've mentioned that I had two things going on this last week. It was the situation and something else. And the something else relates to my finances. Here's the thing. I planned this move to Japan very, very carefully, right down to the budget for the move, the budget to buy a house, the budget to buy a car, and a certain amount of money to sustain my wife and I until summer 2026. What's so big about summer 2026? Well, summer 2026 is when both Yumiko and I, next year, is when both Yumiko and I start American Social Security, which we both paid into through our careers, and we're both eligible to receive, I guess it's a pension, Social Security pension, and that's an important part of our retirement plan. Excuse me. Now, so the thing is, we kind of pulled the trigger a little bit early on the retirement, left it basically, in our 60 and passing into the 61st year of life. We knew Social Security wouldn't start until age 62, and once we get to Social Security, we're in pretty good shape for the rest of our life. The thing was, I had a budget to get us there, And that budget required that we take a certain amount of money out of our 401k, my 401k, to sustain us until basically early summer 2025, 26. I planned it so carefully. I tried to, and one of the things I do when I use AI now when I'm planning stuff, and I didn't use AI when I was planning all this. This was before AI really became a tool that I was both available or something that I knew how to use very well. One of the things I do with AI is that I usually ask it when I have a plan of action. I say, once we've got the plan all set, I say, hey AI, is there anything I missed? Can you think of anything in these deliberations that might have missed the mark on? And it always comes up with something interesting to say. I didn't do that when I was planning this retirement plan. So I had planned to take out a chunk of money to sustain Yumiko and I our month to month expenses, including the money that I'm continuing to pay down for my daughter's college. So I took out a personal loan to pay for my daughter's college, and I'm still paying on that. I'll be paying on that for a couple more years. It's pretty big amount of money. um, and that's actually the crux of the matter. I wasn't going to say that because I wasn't going to make it sound like my obligations for my daughter are the cause of this, but it is. So without that, we wouldn't have any this difficulty. But I'm not saying that to throw my daughter or that under the bus. That was my own decision to do that, and I'm glad I did. And I would do it again. But now it puts me in a position that's a bit of a challenge. So here it is. Explain it to you. And if you're planning to retire, maybe this is a cautionary tale. It turns out that I'm not alone in this. We had taken out, earmarked a certain amount of money to get us to early summer 2026. A certain amount of money taken out month by month by month out of the 401k piecemeal to get us by. And it would have worked had I not had, but I wasn't aware of something, a federal law in the United States, which requires that distributions taken out in retirement age, distributions taken out of a 401k need to have 20% of that distribution sent to the government, withheld right away off the top and sent to the government in prepayment of anticipated taxes, because 401k distributions are taxable income. Unlike Roth IRA, Roth IRA, these are not tax free. They were not front loaded with tax payment. These 401k, I have to pay, I treat it like income. Now, when I first started taking the money out, I noticed that. I noticed that I would withdraw a certain amount of money from my 401k. And when I would withdraw it, let's say it was a certain amount of money, that some percentage of that was going off to the feds and some of it was going off to the state. It didn't cross my mind. I didn't realize what was happening. That, remember, there was a certain block of money that had to get us to early summer 2026. That every time I was taking money out of the 401k, 20% plus, because there were some going to the state of California too, was going off to pay taxes until last week when I went in and I took the money out for November, and I looked at what was remaining and I went, that's not going to get us to summer. And I sat there, I had a really one of those days last week, where I was like, what the heck? What happened? What did I do wrong? And it didn't take me too long to realize that what had happened was these automatic, as you've already figured out, these automatic withholdings were basically sending to the United States government and the state of California the money that I needed to sustain us till Social Security kicks in. Now, the good news is actually fantastic news, is that my taxable liability for all the money that I've been taking out with the 401ks has already been paid, right? So that's great. So I don't have to worry about that. But what am I going to do when the certain budget that I've got runs out, roughly in March, and I have about 3 months that I won't be able to cover my liabilities. I'll be able to cover my living expenses, but I won't be able to cover my debt. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about this, because I have basically three options, right? One option, number one, is to use more of my savings, which I don't want to do. Option two is default on the loan, which I'm not going to do. Option three is Well, there's other ways to do. I can handle option two. I can also, like restructure the loan, restructure it. And I did try that already last week. I did try to apply for a loan, which would have consolidated and restructured. But I gave them all honest information about my situation. In the past, I've never had trouble getting loans. I made a good income, and I had a had good credit, and I still have good credit. But I don't have a good income anymore, so I got denied. So I don't want to use any additional savings. I got denied for the loan. One option would be that I could reach out to the lender and say, "Hey, I'd like to restructure this to kind of get me by for 3 months," and they would do that most likely, but that would show up as a negative on my credit rating, and I'd like to avoid that too because just for various and sundries, I worked hard to earn that good credit. Wouldn't like to do that. So I'm trying to think of all the other things. And a third, or is this a fourth option, was to get a job. You know, it's 3 months. It's 3 months of shortfall, and I have about 6 months, seven. I have about 5 or 6 months before we're going to reach that point. You know, it's really good that I do this. It's really good that I talk with this. I make these videos, and anyone else who's looking for a way to wrestle your own demons, I can tell you that talking about it publicly, even just speaking it aloud, but doing it in front of other people, not only helps in a cathartic manner to get it out, but it also helps in a kind of a reassuring manner, in kind of an easing the mind manner. For example, the statement that I just made, I could feel because I'm living right now with a steady sense of panic. Not panic, that's not too strong a word. A steady sense of anxiety about this whole issue. It bothers me in a good sense because I'm thinking about it and I've actively working on it every day. And it's like a low level sense of stress. And it's funny because it resembles exactly the low level, sometimes mid level sense of stress that I lived with every day of my life for 40 years as a working professional. The only job that I really didn't have that stress with was when I was a dishwasher, which was probably the reason I loved being a dishwasher so much because there was no stress and I got paid for it. But most of my jobs have involved just like this idling stress, like a diesel engine at a truck stop, blah, 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 always there. And for the last, almost 10 months or so, the engine's been shut off. It's been a very easy ride. Retirement has been pretty fun because I wasn't aware of the dilemma that was coming because by virtue of the fact that I had miscalculated, that I had forgotten about federal and state withholdings from my 401k. So now I'm back and now I'm in this situation. And back to the point about saying it aloud. Saying it aloud the way I am right now, talking to you about it, telling you about it, and realizing that, hey, it's really just 3 months worth of, you know, um, uh, debt servicing that I need to worry about because that's exactly what it is. It's not living expenses, it's debt servicing that I have to worry about. If I don't do anything, if I don't do anything about any of this, I'm just going to wind up with 3 months of being unable to pay my daughter's college debt, which would be an awful thing. I don't want to do that. So what do I need? So I got about 5 or 6 months head start to do something about this because I'm going to run out of the budgeted money in March. So it gives me November, December is almost gone. November, December, January, February, March, 5 months. I've got 5 months to solve this problem. Good amount of time. The solution that has bubbled to the surface that I think is the best, most equitable, and the one I'm most interested in, well, the one I would be most interested in is if I could resume my antique business, right? Because that's a good earning business. If these tariffs hadn't happened, this wouldn't be a problem at all. My business was doing very well going into the fall, but I had to shut everything down because Japan Post stopped shipping packages to the United States. So I'm left with all these antiques that I can't sell. So at least not to Americans, and there's not enough. Like I said, eight. I think I've said 8 out of 10 of my sales went to America. So basically, wiping America off the map, put me out of business. So I can't do that unless next month the Supreme Court in the United States will take up the issue, and if they decide against Trump having the ability to do those tariffs, and if Japan then decides to resume shipments per their usual status using the what's called the de minimis limit of $800 for duty free shipping, then I'll be able to go back into business, and that will get me, and I'll be able to start that up like that. I'll be back in business and rolling, and I'll easily make up this 3 months difference. But if I don't do that, what else can I do? Well, I can't be a project manager anymore. And by the way, the place that I used to work, where I was a project manager before, they stopped hiring because of AI. AI has had such an impact. I was an IT organization that they completely stopped hiring. Our hiring freeze as they begin to roll out artificial intelligence within the organization to do the jobs of people like me. I couldn't even get my old job back if I wanted to. I'm out. Um, and I have applied for several jobs and didn't even hear back. I think it's due to my age, etc., and that's fine. But what I did stumble across was this online English tutoring thing where I can apply, become accepted into the system, and teach people English from right here. This would be my venue for teaching English. It doesn't pay a lot, but it pays enough that if I start now and I can accumulate over 5 months, I'll cover the 3 months difference, and then we'll reach Social Security in early summer, and then we'll be able to cover both our living expenses and the paying down of my daughter's student debt. And once the daughter's student debt's done, we're in very good shape at that point. So I've laid it all out for you, and I've also laid out for you a startling source of stress and anxiety, more so by virtue of the fact that it had been so long that I had been without that stress. I had forgotten what it was like to live with that gnawing, aching stress of managing things. Because, I mean, that's all that was the majority of my adult life and professional life and fatherhood life. It was solving problems one after another, huge, gigantic, small, medium-sized problems every day, all of my life. I just got one more to solve, and I think I'm up to the task. So that does adjust my ability to say every morning with my Good Life creed, "Am I ready to die? Are my affairs in order?" Well, not as much, no longer as in order as I hope. Although the worst thing that would happen if I was to die right now, the worst thing that would happen is that if my wife and daughter were not able to take over the finances and maintain the payments, they would default on that student loan, and the consequences would entail. It's not a good thing, but it's not the end of the world. It would be a dead guy's credit that gets ruined. But it would be nice if that was not the case. So I will probably not until I get to summer say anymore that my affairs are completely in order, because they clearly are not. Okay, as for the creed, it consists in my book. You can read about it in goingalone.org. And by the way, I just paid the thank you to, and this is a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube members. I just paid the website renewal costs for goingalone.org, which is part of what your support does. It was, and I'll tell you with a great thank you, it was $800 for the next 2 years of supporting the website. Where goingalone.org, it's time. I wish I'd counted those. Was that because I swear I've heard that clock do 13 chimes before, and that sounded like a lot. Anyway, I've mentioned every morning, every single morning, the last thing I do before I start my engage in this soliloquy in earnest is I give a heartfelt thank you to my YouTube viewers, my YouTube members, and my Patreon supporters. And this is a case in point where I get to illustrate why I'm so thankful for you. These people are, by being members of my channel and supporters on Patreon, actually money is coming my way that I use to do a couple of things. I use to support all the activities I do on YouTube. I also use that money to pay for the fees related to supporting my website, goingalone.org, which is about $400 a year to do, and I pay for it in 2-year intervals. So last week, just when I needed the money. I could have used the money for the planning, get us to summer. The dues came for the website, $800, and I went ahead and paid it. So you can read goingalone.org for free, and goingalone.org, I get to continue saying that for free, not because of the largesse of me, but because of the contributions that the folks like you do. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. You make this possible. You can read the creed at goingalone.org. If you go to the homepage, click on the Read the Book button, and then look for the chapter titled The Good Life. And the 8 objectives are as follows. Number 1, to be always ready to die. And that means that I have my affairs, my relationships, and my life's work in order. And I have all of those in order, although 2, what, 2? Yeah, 2, I think, need a little bit of attention. First, like I said before, my affairs are not completely in order because I have some threat to my ability to sustain payment on my daughter's university education. So I'm working to adjust that. So that's an affair that I'm actively engaged in. The second one is my relationship with my mom. There's been some more communication with her this week that I won't talk about, but it's an ongoing challenge that I'm always hoping that someday I'll be able to have a better relationship with her, and I'm going to make some efforts this week for. Will I ever learn? My life's work is certainly complete. My book is written. My daughter is raised, and my I talked about the other 2 already. My second objective from the creed is to make good and effective use of my time, to not waste my days with attention to activities that are not conducive to the life that I want to live and the legacy I want to leave behind. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. That's precisely what I'm doing when I do this creed this meditation every day. Number 4 is to um, cultivate good. Is that it? Cultivate good emotional reactions. That's right. To respond well to difficult and challenging circumstance, like the intersections on the Tomei Expressway here. Number 5 is to do good things relative to my values. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And number 8 is to maintain my balance, which I've maintained it, but it's been a little hard last week with these challenges. Okay, as for the principles, let's read today. Life will not be born. That which must be born. Life will not be born is another idea altogether. Although some people do choose when they're facing down how difficult life is, that they choose that life will not be born, sadly. It's actually called That Which Must Be Born. It's principle number 17 on page 261 of the hardbound edition. Here we go. That which must be born with an E, carried, weight that you carry. Life presents us with various burdens of many sorts, tasks, duties, responsibilities, as well as circumstances both apprehended and unexpected, which we must shoulder, lift, and carry despite our will, want, attitude, health, or even our desire. These are the things which we simply must do to fulfill our living mandate. Sure, some choose to not carry such burdens, though they do so not without consequence. Therefore, as long as this is what we must be and do and how we must live, then why not press forward with a smile and eyes lifted towards the sun and the stars and the light which is the better part of our lives? Let us press on despite the weight, move forward in spite of our fatigue, and live on while mindful and feeling and suffering our weak bodies, frail minds, and inevitable consequent death. Geez, just what I needed to read, if I do say so myself, this morning, relative to this weight that I'm carrying about my inability to continue making payments on the college debt, right? I mean, this is one of those life will not go well circumstances that happens despite my best planning. I missed the mark, and now I have to bear the consequence, figure out a plan forward, get a job, and see my way through. But wait, there's another paragraph. And this one is in this last second paragraph. I remember adding this. I thought it's an ode to Homer and Odysseus. riding in his ship with his crew on their way home after the Trojan War, and passing by the dread rocks of the sirens, the maidens on the shore, singing their songs, luring sailors into the rocks and their death. And Odysseus plugging his ears with wax and asking his crew to lash him to the mast so he can hear, or the crew plugging their ears with wax. Well, Odysseus did not. Ulysses did not. And he listened to the sound of the sirens while he was lashed to the mast of the ship so he wouldn't jump into the sea. Steady the course, declares the master from the deck. Hold the rudder tight against the wind and the against current. The against current. And your fear and your doubt and upset and sense of drift and loss and ambush, even by the forces of seeming nature, with a faint capital N. Seeming nature. And the draw of the seeming fates towards the maelstrom at port side and the siren rocks starboard. Quick, declares the crew, lash the master to the mast and unstop his ears before we ourselves shut up our own hearing with wax and throw all our weight to hold the ship straight on course. Thus we learn the secrets of the song of the demon sea hags while keeping our vision and direction intact against their sway. Will we soon enough go down and drown within the sea? Of course we will, but not before we first sail like men. And I will attempt to sail like a man. This moment with the challenge that I have with the debt, I'll get through it. I already have a plan. Oh, and by the way, did I tell you I applied for that job I mentioned, and I passed. The application was accepted, and I have an interview on Wednesday. So hopefully, the interview will go well, and I'll get the job, and I'll become one of those guys that can teach via my online setup, and in 5 months make enough money to carry us through 3 months of college debt to Social Security starting in June. That's the plan. Okay, as for the next 24 hours, well, it's a Sunday. It feels like a Saturday. It feels like a Saturday, but it's a Sunday. It's because Yoko, my sister-in-law, took Friday off, and we went to the antique fair in Yamanashi, and then we went again yesterday, and so today feels like a bonus day. We're going to. There's another antique fair to go to, another antique market, and a flower market. And it was supposed to rain today, but the sky is absolutely beautiful, and we're meeting Yoko at 8, so I better wrap this up. That's all there is for that. Let me read comments. I love it now that the sun's coming up. Hello, Tim. Weather check for the UK at 9:38 p.m. is 11.5 C and 72 degrees. Humidity, you guessed it, another dull, cloudy, still day. Heavy rain and blustery winds for Sunday. Change at last. Tim, here it's 20 right on and 85% humidity. I love that your weather reports are usually within minutes of each other each day. 9:38 today, 9:36 yesterday, 9:35 the day before, perhaps. Sarah A says, "How great that you were able to have a second chance to apply yourself differently to the same situation. It sounds like you handled it better, and always helps to throw a sprinkle of humor in there." Yeah, we did handle it better as a family, and thank you. It was nice to have a second chance. I didn't want to. I was kind of gun shy, but I had to climb back on that horse. Robert, hi, Robert. Robert says hi to me, Tim, Sarah, and reports it's 64 degrees Fahrenheit and 59% humidity with an air quality index of 26 in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Very nice. Tim says the old building, 320 years old, you visited at the antique market was a special place. Wasn't that something else? Wow. And the one room where the Meiji Emperor, slept for one night that has been unchanged ever since. He stayed there on a night in 1880. Just about a decade and a half into the Meiji reign. Hello, Claude. Happy Sunday or Saturday to everyone. The road less traveled by makes a difference. It is said to take the fork. It is said to take the fork if it is found on the path. It leads to nirvana. There's a GPS to help navigate. Oh, nice. And good morning to you, Claude. It's an early one for you here in Japan as well. Robert says, "Hi." Oh, by the way, I ran into. Speaking of people, I was at the antique thing yesterday, and I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was another American, a diplomat from America, who said, "Are you Softy Papa?" He said, apparently he follows my Retiring in Japan series. He was down from the Tokyo area to attend the antique fair, saw me, and he thought that maybe he might see me there, knowing my interest in antiques. And sure enough, we did. We had the best and most fun time. It was a good talk. And then I ran into another American in the evening here in the Valley of Tea at the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And again, Tim says hi to Robert. Robert says hi to Claude. Sarah says hi to Robert, Kurt, me, Tim, and Claude of the Waves. Tim says hi to Sarah. Evelyn, hi Evelyn, says hi to myself, Tim, Sarah, Robert, and Claude. Tim says hi to Evelyn. Sarah says hi, good morning to Evelyn. Robert says hi to Evelyn. It sounds a little bit like, remember the old, the Waltons? Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Joe Bob. Good night, Grandpa. Good night, Joe Bob. Doing this every morning feels like that. Some will remember. Robert says, but here's a trivia question: does anyone know what story the Waltons was based on? It was based on something else. I forgot, but I knew it was something else. Robert says hi to Evelyn. Tim says it's 67 here in the UK before I received the state pension in addition to my work pension. I guess the only reason that I'm sort of glad to reach 67. Yeah, 67. By the way, Tim, just if you're curious, pension talk is the what we call in America the full pension or full what is it? Full retirement. We call it full retirement age is 67. The three uh, milestone ages in the American Social Security system are 62, 65, and 67. 67 is called full retirement age, and then 65 and 62 are earlier options. Although you can start Social Security any age you want after 62, but of course the benefits are significantly less. The optimal benefit is age 70. I mean, it really is sweet at age 70. The reason I decided to go with 62, and I know other countries have different things and may not allow people to start as soon. I started 62 because for the demographic for the Healthy Life Index for an American man born in, and I single out Americans because of our poor diet and lifestyle, is first a man born like me, born in 1964, is age 66 and a half is when we should see the onset of our first um, serious illness, which, as if you can see, if you take your pension at 67 as an American, you got statistically, you have about 6 months of good, about a year of good living before you're going to have to show up for duty at the hospital. Now, of course, that's overgeneralizing, right? And results vary. And everybody's got a great grandma rutabaga who's smoked a pack a day and drank a pint of whiskey for breakfast, that lived to 94, and was still tying hogs in her old age, right? Everybody's got that story. But statistically speaking, that's why I chose to go for pull it. Well, it wasn't just that. It was also because I just couldn't stand my job, and I elected to take an earlier retirement with a smaller retirement. Now, the retirement that I will get at 62, if I was to stay in America, I'd be having a rough time. It's a tough place to live. It's very expensive to live there, especially housing. But here in much more less much, I'm one of those expats that's gone somewhere less expensive to stretch my retirement dollars. Right, I'm one of those. It happens to be that it's Japan for us because my wife's Japanese, and but other people go to Thailand or the Philippines, and to different results. I just happen to be one of those. I went on and on about that, huh? I remember it was. I remember it was quite. I remember it was quite. I think I missed the last part of what. Oh, you say you'll be glad to reach 67. Yeah. Tim says, I remember it was quite taxing, so to speak, when we're working out our taxes on my work pension. There's always that nagging doubt and double, triple checking before I retire. Yeah, I thought I double, triple checked everything and I had missed this. I imagine that if I had AI handy at the time and I said, here's my plan, and I have a spreadsheet. If I you just take a copy of this, take a photo of the spreadsheet, or give the spreadsheet document itself to the AI and said, did I miss anything? It probably would have spotted this, my error. Tim says there's always that unexpected something waiting around the corner to pounce on you, but it's good to be as prepared as you can be and try to foresee and plan for every eventuality. Yeah, you're right. I kind of apologized to my wife that I blew it on this, and she kind of pointed out what you said there, Tim. That there's she's pointed out two things, and very wisely. She said first, she said, Kurt, as you just said, Tim, there's always something, and then she pointed out, and we always manage, and she's right. And it's not that all life always manages, right? I mean, stage 4 cancer, it's hard to manage that. There's no stage 5, but for the things that have management as a possibility, they're within the scope of what can be managed. Hashtag true limits, true opportunity, hashtag reason. Then we have a chance to do so, and we are handling it that way. Oh, an important part of this. This is a very important part of this. One of the things that I did was I had a, I take care of all the finances in my family, um, and I don't like to worry my wife with things that she doesn't necessarily need to worry about. But at the same time, I don't want her out of the picture. I don't want to like plan a workaround thing that may or may not work out, like this idea of getting a job or something like that. And she needs to understand why my motivations. Why is Kurt suddenly getting the job, right? So I had to think about how to communicate this to Yumiko, and she's not going to be actively involved in it. It's just not her thing. Just like she takes care of the house, I take care of the money stuff. But I do want her to be aware of it, and I also want her feedback because she's very wise. And like ChatGPT, she has a way of seeing things around the corner, looking at things with perspective that I miss. So I organized a plan of action. This was like 2 days ago, and I found some time, the right amount of time, and I sat down with her, and and you can tell when you're having a serious conversation with somebody. And I planned my communication such that I would front load it with the following statement, which is we need to talk a little bit. And you don't want to leave that hanging, right? Because that could be anything. That could be awful, right? We need to talk a little bit about finances. We've got a bump in the road, but I think I've got it figured out. I'd like to go over the plan with you and get your input. That took what, 10 seconds, 8 seconds for me to say. It, it let her know something's coming, something's happening. It's not, it's not, a problem with us. It's not a problem. I'm not sick. It's finances. We can manage that. I've already got a plan of action. Let's talk about it. And you can see that and she's very staid and sober and stoic in her own mind, and we had the talk. That was really important. Probably the most important part of all of this was to have that conversation with Yumiko so she understands what's happening. She doesn't have to carry the burden. It's my response. It's my effort. I'm the one that manages this stuff, but she knows what's happening. She also understands when I'm looking for a job, the reason I'm looking for a job. She'll also understand if I block out half a day every day, maybe the entire morning for the next 5 months to sit up here in my room and work. She knows why I'm doing that too. That's a real important part of all this. That's hashtag the social principle, hashtag principle of family, hashtag what was it? All kinds of stuff, right? Um, oh, back to Tim says there's always, I didn't finish it. There's always that unexpected something waiting around the corner to pounce on you, but it's good to be as prepared as you can be and try to foresee and plan for every eventuality. I love it. Sarah says a problem shared is a problem halved. Yes. Well, kind of in this case. You're right. You're right. It is. But Yumiko doesn't. She doesn't. She doesn't task. She's not solutioning as much as vetting, right? So it's certainly it's certainly. I'm not saying this to congratulate myself. I'm just laying out. It helps me to see this as well. It's like an unequal burden. It's like carrying an object that has a heavy side. I've got the heavy side. She's got the lighter side. But definitely, it's easier than carrying it. You know, together. Just like she carried the heavy side when we were raising our daughter. She did the heavy work of raising Emily and making Emily into a good young woman. I was just kind of there. I carried the lighter side. Talking to Robert says talking about it releases the emotional component. Yeah, I think you're right, Robert. Sarah says it's great that you have a head start to tackle this. I have no doubt you'll work it out. Gosh, I hope so. I'm embarrassed, ashamed, um, but at the same time, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, um, I do this retiring in Japan video. I even wrote a book on it. Maybe I deserve to have a chapter in there about eventualities and if the planning doesn't go as expected, right? And maybe even relate this tale because I expect that others might face the same thing. not realize if the money that they have in for their 401k may not all be available to them to service their needs, especially if they plan to use it all up in the getting to Social Security. And I talked to ChatGPT about it. It told me there's a term for this. It's like a gap period. You know, a lot of retirees do this. Tim, I think you'll relate. We kind of we kind of we've had enough. We're not at Social Security age or public pension age, whatever that is, but we plan a course of action to get there. It's like it's exactly in my mind like trying to get to the last gas station with just a little bit of gas in the tank, and you're like, it's right down there on E, and the next gas station exit is 4 miles away, and it's right there. The dials it in. You're hoping that there's enough gas to get there. We've been there, right? Most of us have been there, right? That's exactly what this is like. And it turns out a lot of people do this because they've just had enough, and they say, well, okay, Social Security is going to start in a year. If I leave now, I can coast on coast on my savings until I get there. They don't. They don't. I even talked to ChatGPT about it. Let's say, because I remember I talked about a couple of options. I said I could I could dip into further savings, which I don't want to do because we're getting low on that. That's an emergency fund, and we could default. That's another option, and which I don't want to do because I don't want to default on something. Or I could get a job, right? That's the one I'm going to do. But I also talked about the default thing. I said, is there like an intermediary with a default? Like if I reach out to the bank that holds my daughter's college loan and I say, hey, I'm 8 months away from getting Social Security. I've got some tight months ahead. Can we do something? ChatGPT told me that this is such a common circumstance with retirees that most of the major lending institutions actually have scripted responses to this. Well, because they would much rather, because I'm a really good customer. I've been a customer with this bank forever, like 25, 30 years, something like that. Always good standing, always pay all my debts, service everything, because I've used them with my credit cards and stuff like that. They don't want to lose me. And if I call them up and saying, "Hey, I got good stable income coming in through retirement income, but I need a little help for a couple of months," he says they will absolutely work with me to do that. So that's another option as well. So talking this stuff through and thinking it through and going over it with my wife, really did help. And I think, and I'm thinking, sharing that. The reason I started saying was sharing it in a more public sense, like I'm doing now, might be beneficial to other future retirees and also those that think that they have their game plan, but they may be missing the mark with something. Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. Robert says, talking about it releases the emotional component. Sarah says, it's great that you have a head start to tackle this. I have no doubt you'll work it out. Hold on, let me do something real quick here. Okay. Tim says, definitely a problem shared is a problem halved. Yep, I read that one. Thank you. Reverend says, wondering which translation of the Odyssey you read. I read Emily Wilson's. Good gosh, that was in my teens. I don't remember what the translation was. Sarah's laughing. Claude says hi to Rudy, sleepyhead. There he is back there. Yep. Uh, Sarah says, I just noticed, Rudy, what a dog's life. Oh, yeah, he's got a good life. Tim says, we have to make certain amount of workplace contributions. Think it's 35 years throughout our working life to qualify for that full state pension at 67. Unfortunately, you can't take it earlier either. In the United States, you have to earn credits. You have to earn, I think it's 20 credits. Which isn't hard. You can earn 20 credits in 10 years, but your amount of that you'll get, it just goes up. So the American system gives you access pretty early at age 62. But and there's even earlier access for hardship cases, but you have to, the more longer of course you contribute, and the more you contribute the better. Evelyn says, showing up for duty at the hospital, hysterical. Axe says, Kurt, your audio seems a little low to me. I have to pump my audio up for a normal 20 to 60 to be able to hear you. Might be worth a check. Like right now, is that the case right now? And I'm literally holding my mic in my hands. um, what I did was just I saw your comment come through. I read it briefly as it would pass through. I had the music playing softly in the background. Maybe that was interfering with the audio. I turned it down just a moment ago. So Act 98006, who is a long-term friend of the channel, it's good to see you. Please let me know if it's better right now. There's literally nothing more I could do. This is a brand new high quality wireless microphone. And the only difference is, well, this is my normal speaking voice. And I came inside so I could talk at a normal speaking voice. Could others let me know? I've had complaints about the audio in the future, but I don't know that the reason I'm being so prying is I don't know that there's anything more I can do at this point. Act says, sorry if you've already answered this. I just joined the feed, but do you use a financial planner? I do not use a financial planner. No. Robert says, hi, Act 98006. Sarah says, there's no shame in or embarrassment in the way you're handling yourself. It's not about tripping over. It's about how you recover. Well put. Evelyn says, a young family member told me they had a problem. It turned out their hourly pay is being decreased a few dollars. My response was, that is a good problem to have because there is always a solution. Whoa, spoken like a stoic. Wow, I like that. You're right, and I think I get the gist of what you mean, right? Because some problems don't have solution, right? But this one you can solve, right? You're losing, needing to make more money, that's a solvable problem. Some problems aren't. I think that's the spirit of what you meant, Evelyn, right? And then that's what the Stoics would say when they would attempt to manage what is manageable. That's why I have the one principle which I borrowed from the Stoics of true limits and true opportunity, recognizing what is and what is not within our control, scope of control. Tim says the main thing is that you have identified the issue which you can plan for rather than it's springing on you next year out of the blue. Head Start is only a good thing. Thank you. Unlike the horror show. Yes, Evelyn. Yeah, you nailed it exactly. That's it. Yeah, Evelyn, I think you just highlighted a big distinction between Life Will Not Go Well and the horror show. The horror show typically is stuff to which there is no remediation. There is only to go through the process of learning to live with and finding your way through, right? Whatever those step processes are. Thank you, Evelyn, for that. You've given me a way to distinguish a significant difference between those two principles. Act says it's a little better. Oh, I'm glad it's a little better. I wonder what the difference is. Maybe it was the music because I had the music running at such a level that I didn't think it could be picked up by the mic, but I like it and Rudy likes it. It's a soft music, but maybe the microphone was like trying to balance between the music and the background. And now I've fixed that. Sarah can say I can hear you clearly. Sarah, was it like this all the way through this so far? Did you notice the change after I turned the music down? And Sarah, you're a regular, and I appreciate that. For example, was it better in the past? I've been using this mic this way, and I've been inside the room now for about a week now. So I know you've been here in the past couple of days, Sarah. Was the volume okay in the past couple of days? And Tim, I'd love to hear from anybody that's a regular. Is the audio all right? Tim says, and I can see feedback coming in now. Thank you, everybody. Tim says, I'm using earbuds on my laptop and have to turn the volume down. Oh, really? Okay. Claude says, hissing and popping with mic being too close. Oh, really? Okay. Sound is great otherwise. Thank you, Claude. I appreciate that. How about this? Now, in the past, I was using this microphone like this, and I would listen back to the audio, and it was fantastic. Yet I still got comments from people saying it was too low, which is why I put it like this. Can I ask you all, how is the quality now? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is the way this mic is designed to be used. I was holding it because I was still getting comments from people saying it was too low. This should deal with the popping. Sarah says, it's been clear, but maybe a little louder since you turned the music off. It was probably the music then. Claude says, music had no effect on the voice other than the mic being too close. All right. So I pretty much reached the end of comments and I've gone through everything, but I'm going to hold on for just a second in case anyone is typing a response. What I'd really love to hear from anybody is, and I appreciate you giving me this feedback, and I do apologize for holding you on longer for my maintenance servicing. Can I get feedback from people right now? How is the quality right now? Because this should be the default, and I'm going on right now so you can continue listening. This should be the most optimal setup right now. And Tim says, finding it fine now, a little quiet if I take earbuds off, but fine. Very good. Anybody else got any thoughts? While I take a sip of coffee, can you hear me slurping my coffee this way? I know that's something that bothers people a lot, and I understand that. There's people that are really, really annoyed by that. Um, Claude says, neck mic is too low. Okay, so maybe I have to do something like this. Maybe something like this. Just remember to hold it, not get it up here like this, but hold it down like this, which is what all the cool kids are doing on YouTube. Sarah says, I think your voice is clear with holding it. It's a little too soft when on your neck. Okay, okay, I think that's enough. Maybe what I can do is I'll look for something at the antique flea market because I see them sometimes. Maybe a little holder that I could like hold the mic, like a little thing that comes up. Look at this. I hear something I bought yesterday. This antique candle holder. I got this. Isn't this great? I got this at the flea market yesterday. Maybe something like this that would hold it right here and keep the mic right about there. Evelyn says it was always good for you. I think Tim says agrees with Sarah, and Sarah said, "I think your voice is clear with holding it." Okay, so we've got a couple of votes about holding it like this. And Evelyn, I really love your comment because this is so reflective of you and I share this. I think you and I share this quality, and I'm not saying anything negative about anybody else, but Evelyn and I think are the eternal half full people. I mean, I am annoyingly optimistic and upbeat. You know, I'm sure that if and when I get the diagnosis of a deadly disease that's going to hit me, I'm going to have something funny to say about it, and I'm going to try to find the sunny side of that route out the door. So Evelyn saying it's fine for you in every level. That's probably because Evelyn, you're just adjusting, right? If it's too loud, you just take it off a little bit, or whatever, adjust the volume. I love that about. I love that. I love seeing other eternal optimists because we're a tribe. Evelyn says, see, there's Evelyn. He's furthermore concerned about others. It looks uncomfortable for you to hold the mic. I love the coffee slurping. Oh, thank you. Drives some people nuts. I will get comments if I slurp the coffee too much. I will get comments from people saying, stop that. Tim says, Rudy could hold it for you, but he's too busy at the moment. Yeah, he is out. Rudy, they're talking about you. Yeah, my boy. Good boy. Okay, thank you all for your feedback and help. I really do appreciate that. Wow, we went almost a full hour today, which is okay because it's Sunday. No radio exercise today, so I've got the time. Although we are going to pick up Yoko at 8 o'clock, so I'll probably take the dogs out for a walk. While Yumiko, I wonder if we're going to go out for breakfast. I don't know. Maybe we'll go to Sukiya. Okay. And Sarah says, have a great day, all. Tim says, or Robert says, thank you, Kurt. Bye, all. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everyone, for your help with my audio check. I think I found the optimal setting. We're just holding it just like this. Tim, you have a good day as well. Thanks for saying you're a good day to everybody. Be safe, but it's not too safe, everybody. Bye bye.